There is no escape.
If you want to get more closely acquainted with Vergil's Doppelganger mechanic, I strongly encourage you to watch my first video, which is basically this Doppelganger guide, where I go very in-depth into the basics, the rudimentary aspects of this mechanic. The link to that video will be in the description below, so yeah. So first things first, before I start talking about the combo and the mistakes you can make and all that jazz, I should preface this by talking about my controls. So I play this game using my mouse and keyboard. Yeah, really. Blasphemy, I know. But I think that if you've ever played a single game on your PC using a mouse and a keyboard, these controls should be familiar to you. I think they're very easy to grasp. So, just like with almost every game ever, WASD are the keys you use for movement. So W is forward, S is backwards, A is left, D is right. This is the equivalent to you using your analog stick for moving, like tilting it left, right, forward, backward. That's basically what I use. So again, W forward, S backward, A left, D right. Obviously, just like in every game ever, space is jump. So I jump using space. The left mouse button, unsurprisingly, is the attack button. Also, like in every game ever. The right mouse button is the button I use for Mirage Blades. So all my Mirage Blade attacks are mapped to the right button. The right mouse button, I mean. So that's basically it for these basic controls. Shift is the button I use for locking on. So when I lock on, I press Shift. In this game, you gotta be locked on for just about any attack ever. Only under specific circumstances should you release the lock on. But yeah, basically lock on is Shift in my case. So next up, we've got the trick action. So, trick up, down, air trick, all that stuff. I use E. So E is the button I use. So if I press E without locking on, that is trick up. If I press E while locking on, like Shift plus E, that is air trick, and I teleport. If I press back to forward plus E, or S plus W plus E, that is trick down. So like I said, E is the trick action. That's the button I use for tricking, basically. R is the button I use for taunting. So that's the taunt button. Air taunts, lock-on taunts, doesn't matter. R is the button you gotta press for taunting. Moving on, I have F, and F is the button I use to charge my Sindal trigger. So I press and hold F, then I release it, and I basically go into my Sindal trigger mode. Moving on, we also have 1 and 2. So 1 is the button for changing the weapon to the right. So my layout is as follows. I use the default layout for my weapons, my arsenal. So it goes Yamato, Beowulf, Mirage Edge. So if I have the Yamato equipped and I press 1, it will switch to Beowulf, which is the weapon to its right. And if I press 1 again, it will switch from Beowulf to the Mirage Edge, which is the weapon to its right. If I have the Yamato equipped, and I press 2, it will go to the weapon that's on its left, and that is the Mirage Edge. If I press 2 again, it will switch to Beowulf. If I press 2 again, it will once again switch to the Yamato. So that's how this works. We're switching weapons left and right. That's how it works. Moving on, we have the Doppelganger buttons. So the buttons are as follows. X is the slow Doppelganger. This is a Doppelganger that is kind of delayed by about, I don't know, half a second or something. So that's X. C is the normal Doppelganger. He is slightly delayed, not by half a second, but like he's just not completely in sync with you. So that's C. And V is the haste version of the doppelganger who is completely in sync with you, meaning that he immediately reacts to your commands and he mimics your inputs. He registers them immediately and simply reacts to them. So, yeah. I deactivate the doppelganger by pressing Z. So that's how I do it. And, you know, that's pretty much those are all the controls, really. There are some other things like, you know, using CTRL to basically lock on to multiple targets, or, I mean, switch the lock on, stuff like that, or using the arrows, using, you know, it just doesn't matter, really. These are the main things that you will need. So, if I say I'm pressing D plus left mouse button, that means that I'm pressing right plus attack button. If I say I'm pressing S plus W plus left mouse button, that means I'm pressing back to forward plus attack button. Kind of like tilting your analog stick back and then forward and then pressing the attack button. So that's how it works. If I say back to forward plus right mouse button, or S plus W plus right mouse button, that is basically back to forward plus your Mirage Blade button. So heavy rain blades in my case. But don't worry, most of the time, like 99% of the time, I'll say right plus attack button instead of D plus left mouse button, because I feel like that's more universally comprehensible, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, these are my controls, and now let's talk about the actual combo. Alright, so now we got the market combo, and this combo is basically a mixture between two of Maker T's combos, or rather, it's a mixture between his combo 10 and one of his doppelganger setups. He did this video where he demonstrated some of his doppelganger setups, and I basically took one of them, well, partially, and I kind of improvised at the very end of the combo. And I should probably know that this combo is incredibly doppelganger intensive. Like, you use the doppelganger literally like at every step. So yeah, let's get into this. So the thing about this combo is the very start of the combo, in my opinion, is the most difficult part, and I managed to find a way to make it way easier, but I only figured out that way, like, I only figured it out like 2 weeks or 3 weeks after I'd already completed the combo. So I'm gonna get into the hard way to do this, to start this combo, and the easy way. So yeah. Right, so like I said, there is this hard way to do this combo, and then there's an easy way, which I feel kind of embarrassed that I didn't figure this out earlier, because it's really obvious, it's really simple. I don't know how I didn't figure it out earlier, but whatever. So we're gonna start with the hard way, and then talk about the easy way. So first of all, you start this combo off. So, okay, so firstly I should preface this by talking about the distance. So if you're too far away from the enemy, this is going to happen. Your rapid slash won't go through the enemy, you'll just reach the enemy and that's it. So make sure you're not too far away from the enemy. But if you're too close to the enemy, that's a whole other beast, because if you're too close to the enemy, the doppelganger will do Rising Star, and it won't launch the enemy into the air, because the rapid slash you did previously, because, you know, when you do rapid slash, you basically slash through the opponent, and it has this delay effect where all these multiple slashes start cutting the enemy up, right? Well, if you do rapid slash, and the doppelganger tries to do Rising Star to launch the enemy into the air, the enemy will just start shaking like this, and they won't get launched to the air. So this would be the ideal distance. So, yeah. Alright, so first things first, I gotta talk about Rapid Slash and Rising Star. Again, because I do this for almost every combo. So, Rapid Slash, when you're on the left side, is right plus attack button, or D plus left mouse button. But Rising Star is right plus holding the attack button, or D plus holding the left mouse button. Now, let's say you have the haste version of the doppelganger active. If you press right plus attack button, both Vergil and the doppelganger will end up using rapid slash, because the haste version of the doppelganger is completely in sync with you. He reacts to your commands immediately. And, you know, similarly, when you press right and you hold the attack button, both Vergil and the Haste Doppelganger will do Rising Star at the exact same time. So, he reacts to your commands immediately. Now, if you have the slow version of the Doppelganger active, and you press right plus attack button, Vergil will use Rapid Slash, and the Doppelganger will also do Rapid Slash, but he will do it half a second later because he is delayed by half a second. So he reacts to your commands, but he does it half a second later. He acts on them half a second later, approximately. Now, if you were to use Rising Star, so you have the slow version of the Doppelganger active, and you press right and you hold the attack button. You use Rising Star. What's going to happen is Vergil is going to use Rising Star, but his Doppelganger is going to use Rapid Slash. The Doppelganger would react to your commands. He would react to you pressing right plus holding the attack button, but he would do it half a second later because he's delayed. But by that time, it will have been too late because the enemy will have already been in the air. And this is really important because you can't do Rising Star unless you're making contact with the enemy. So if you press right and you hold the attack button, that's Rising Star. But if the enemy is airborne, it doesn't matter if you're holding the attack button, you will simply go right under them and you will do Rapid Slash, because Rising Star only activates upon contact with the enemy. And in this case, Vergil's Doppelganger is reacting to you pressing right and holding the attack button. But the reason he's doing Rapid Slash is because the enemy is in the air, Vergil launched him into the air with Rising Star, and they have no choice but to use Rapid Slash because they can't make contact with the enemy. So that's basically how this works. Now this combo is somewhat of an anomaly because Vergil does Rapid Slash, and then the Doppelganger follows it up half a second later with Rising Star. Now this is the slow version of the Doppelganger, so, like we said, if you have the slow version active and you press right plus attack button, if you do Rapid Slash, what's going to happen is Vergil is going to use Rapid Slash, and the slow Doppelganger will also do Rapid Slash. The only difference is he will do it half a second later because he's delayed. But here he does Rising Star. So what exactly did we do? Alright, so there are two ways to do this combo, this part of the combo. I'll first go over the hard way and then the easy way. And, because in the original combo I used the hard way because I didn't know any better. So, alright, so this is what you do. You summon the slow version of the Doppelganger, right? And you use Rapid Slash. So you press right plus attack button. And now, basically, as soon as Vergil slashes the enemy with Rapid Slash, at around this point, you change the Doppelganger's mode from slow to haste, and then you press right and you hold the attack button. You input Rising Star. So let me explain how this works. You summon the slow version of the Doppelganger and you use Rapid Slash, right plus attack button. Vergil does Rapid Slash, but as we already know, the Doppelganger will copy this input, he will mimic these commands, but he will do it half a second later. So he's not going to do it immediately. And in that time, before he can even start mimicking, before the Doppelganger can even register you pressing right plus attack button, before he can actually do Rapid Slash with you, you change his mode from slow to haste. The haste version of the Doppelganger reacts to your commands immediately as you press them. So, you basically change the Doppelganger's mode from slow to haste before he can even do Rapid Slash, and then you input Rising Star, which is right plus holding the attack button. And since his mode is haste, he will immediately react to you pressing right and holding the attack button. That's how he will do Rising Star. So I really don't know how to explain this any better. This is literally the most I can do. So, you summon the slow version of the Doppelganger, you use Rapid Slash, which is right plus attack button. At around this point, as soon as Vergil slashes the enemy with Rapid Slash, you change the Doppelganger's mode from slow to haste, and you input Rising Star, which is right plus attack button and holding the attack button. So, yeah, that's it. Now, the easy way to do this combo, and it is so much easier, it's actually, like, painstakingly, like, I don't even know, man. Okay, so you summon the haste version of the Doppelganger, not the slow version, but the haste version. Now, let me explain. If you summon the haste version of the Doppelganger and you use Rapid Slash, like I already said, what's going to happen is Vergil and the Doppelganger will use Rapid Slash at the exact same time because the Haze Doppelganger reacts to your commands immediately. He is completely in sync with you. He immediately reacts to your inputs. But here's the thing. What you want to do is you summon the haste version of the Doppelganger, and before he's fully formed, you use Rapid Slash. So before he's fully formed, like immediately after pressing the button for summoning the Doppelganger, you immediately use Rapid Slash. You press right plus attack button. After this, you just press right and you hold the attack button. You input a Rising Star. Okay, so the Doppelganger, the haste version of the Doppelganger, will not react to any of your commands if you use Rapid Slash before he's fully formed. This also happens with the Street combo. This also happens with the Heaven combo. The key is not to wait for the Doppelganger to fully form. If the Doppelganger fully forms, what's going to happen is he will use Rapid Slash with you. So don't wait. Summon the Doppelganger, and before he's even fully formed, like, as he's turning into, well, he's still a blur, basically. At that point, you just press right plus attack button, and you use Rapid Slash. And then you press right, and you hold the attack button, which is Rising Star, and the Doppelganger will react to that, and he will use Rising Star, because he reacts to your commands immediately. But only when he's fully formed. So that is basically the key to doing this part of the combo. Now, this is a lot easier because the most reoccurring mistake with this combo is basically it was the start of the combo, because I would summon the slow version of the Doppelganger and I would use Rapid Slash, right? But I wouldn't manage to switch the Doppelganger's mode in time and then input a Rising Star. So what would happen is the Doppelganger would end up using Rapid Slash. You know, he wouldn't react to Rising Star. He would just end up following it up with Rapid Slash because, well, I didn't switch his mode in time, and he ended up mimicking the Rapid Slash from before, if that makes any sense. So that's the biggest issue with this combo if you want to do it the hard way. I see absolutely no reason why you would want to do it the hard way, because not only do you risk the Doppelganger not using Rising Star because you really got to get the timing down perfectly, but you also risk the fact that, you know, you might not be able to switch the Doppelganger's mode in time, you might not be able to input Rising Star in time, and there are just a lot of risks with that come with using this hard way. But if you do it the easy way, all you gotta do is just summon the haste version of the Doppelganger, use Rapid Slash, then input Rising Star, make sure to use Rapid Slash before the Doppelganger is fully formed, and that's essentially it. So yeah, so now that Vergil's done using Rapid Slash, you basically press left plus attack button, or A plus left mouse button. Now, since Vergil is on the ground and he's on the right side, he was going to do Rapid Slash, right? Because when you're on the right side, a left plus attack button is Rapid Slash. But since his Doppelganger is on the left side, and he's in midair, using A plus left mouse button, or left plus attack button, will cause his Doppelganger to do aerial cleave, because as you already know, the Doppelganger mimics all of your commands, but it all depends on the side and the angle and whether they're in midair or on the ground. So if you're in midair, you're on the left side and you press left plus attack button, that's aerial cleave, and Vergil's Doppelganger is on that side, which is why he does aerial cleave. So now, as Vergil is sheathing his sword after Rapid Slash, as you already know, he doesn't react to any commands while he's sheathing his sword. You input Void Slash. You press S plus W plus left mouse button, or back to forward plus attack button with the Doppelganger, and the Doppelganger will essentially do Void Slash to make sure the enemy doesn't fall to the ground. Now, you immediately use Rising Star with Vergil, and you deactivate the Doppelganger, right? You deactivate him. Now, you activate the Doppelganger again, you summon the haste version of the Doppelganger again, and you switch to the Mirage Edge, right? So now after the Doppelganger is formed, you essentially let go of the lock-on, you press E, or well, you use Trick Up, and now you use Air Stinger, which is right plus attack button. But as you're using Air Stinger, and this is really important, after using Air Stinger and during Air Stinger, while you're pressing right plus attack button, you gotta mash the attack button as many times as you want. You can mash it 4 times, you can mash it 40 times, as long as you mash it. You keep mashing it while you're using Air Stinger. And let me explain why. The reason for this is because you want your Doppelganger to use Aerial Rave 1, and as we already know, Aerial Rave 1 is just mashing the attack button like a maniac while in the air. So the Doppelganger will react to you mashing the attack button while using Air Stinger, and he will use Aerial Rave 1. And because you're mashing the attack button, Vergil, after using Air Stinger, will use Helmbreaker, and he will basically hit the ground, which will also blow the enemy away. And as we already know, Helmbreaker is just pressing the attack button once. So by mashing the attack button like a maniac while using Air Stinger, what's going to happen is Vergil's Doppelganger is going to use Aerial Rave 1, because Aerial Rave 1 is just mashing the attack button like that, and Vergil will use Helmbreaker, which is just pressing the attack button once. Also, once you summon this haste version of the Doppelganger, make sure to wait like a fraction of a second before using Trick Up. Because if you immediately use Trick Up and use Air Stinger, what's going to happen is, well, this. I don't know what this is, but this is what happens when you immediately use Trick Up and Air Stinger. You hit this invisible wall. And if you wait too long, then, well, the Doppelganger will simply fail to catch the enemy and they'll fall to the ground. So make sure not to wait too long, but also make sure to wait like a little less than half a second after summoning this haste version of the Doppelganger, because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to hit this invisible wall. And once you hit the enemy with Helmbreaker, and once you hit the ground, and not a millisecond earlier, you call the Doppelganger back to your position by pressing V. Make sure you don't call the Doppelganger back to your position before you're fully on the ground. I made this mistake so many times, and I would call the Doppelganger back to my position. I would press V before hitting the ground with Helmbreaker, and what would happen is the Doppelganger would spawn in the air. Because I didn't fully reach the ground, and now the Doppelganger is in the air as a result, and the combo will fail. So make sure you hit the ground. If need be, you can wait a little, and then call the Doppelganger back to your position. So if you're on the right side, on the ground, and you have the Mirage Edge equipped, pressing left plus attack button with the Mirage Edge is Stinger. But if you have the Yamato equipped and you're also on the ground on the right side, pressing left plus attack button is Rapid Slash. And since the Doppelganger can only use the Yamato and he copies your commands, if you press left plus attack button with the Mirage Edge, Vergil will end up using Stinger, but the Doppelganger will end up using Rapid Slash. And that's not what you want. So what you actually want is for Vergil, when you're on the right side, you want to press left and you want to hold the attack button. Now, if you're on the right side and you press left and you hold the attack button with the Mirage Edge, that is Million Stab. But if you have the Yamato equipped, pressing left plus holding the attack button is Rising Star. So what's going to happen is Vergil is going to use Million Stab, and the Doppelganger is going to use Rising Star to launch the enemy into the air. But here's what you gotta do. You have to cancel the Million Stab before it even comes out by letting go of the lock-on and pressing E, or well, the trick button. So you basically use Trick Up to cancel your Million Stab before it even comes out. So, again, you will basically, once you're on the ground, you press left plus attack button and you hold the attack button with the Mirage Edge. This will cause Vergil to use Million Stab and his Doppelganger to use Rising Star. Because like I said, left plus holding the attack button when you're on the right side with the Yamato is Rising Star. And the Doppelganger can only use the Yamato, so that's what he does, Rising Star. So, left plus holding the attack button, and you keep holding the attack button. Make sure you don't stop holding it. I'll explain why later. So, left plus holding the attack button, and now, as soon as you reach the enemy, you let go of the lock-on and you press E, or well, you use trick up. At this point, you basically release the attack button, the left mouse button, to do a round trip, and you simultaneously deactivate the doppelganger. The reason for this is, round trip, when you have the Mirage Edge equipped and you press and hold the attack button for almost 2 seconds or a second and a half until it glows, and then you release the attack button, what's going to happen is Vergil is going to use a round trip. So you keep using the million stab, which is left plus holding the attack button, and you keep holding it, and once you use trick up, you basically release it to use this round trip, and you simultaneously deactivate the doppelganger. Alright, so after all this, you basically use trick down to teleport to the ground. Make sure you deactivated the doppelganger prior to that, and now you basically summon the haste version of the doppelganger again for the 3rd time or something, and immediately after summoning him, you use back to forward plus attack button, or S plus W plus left mouse button in my case. Now this will cause 2 things to happen. You know how Vergil has the Mirage Edge equipped and round trip is active? Alright, so when round trip is active, you can't use any of the attacks with the Mirage Edge. So whenever you press the attack button with the Mirage Edge, what's going to happen is the round trip will go back to Vergil's position. So the Mirage Edge will go back to Vergil like a boomerang. So because the round trip is active and Vergil has the Mirage Edge equipped, pressing back plus forward plus attack button, we're focusing on the attack button, that will cause the Mirage Edge to go back to Vergil's position, and round trip will stop hitting the enemy. So, you got that? Alright. But the Doppelganger has the Yamato equipped. He can't use the Mirage Edge. So when you press back to forward plus attack button with the Yamato, that is Void Slash, and the Doppelganger will end up using Void Slash. So the Mirage Edge goes back to Vergil, round trip is no longer cutting the enemy up, so they start losing altitude, but the Doppelganger reacts to you pressing back to forward plus attack button, and he catches the enemy with Void Slash. After this, you use Trig Down, and you use Deep Stinger with the Mirage Edge, and you also input the Blistering Blades, which is forward plus Mirage Blade button, or in my case, W plus right mouse button, to make sure that the enemy stays airborne. And now you basically do the Deep Stinger, and that's it. Right, so some of the mistakes you can make with this combo, you have this, which is a ubiquitous issue. Like, the Doppelganger just doesn't move. Like, you summon him, you do Rapid Slash, but he doesn't react, he doesn't move. Have no idea why this happens. I don't know if it's the position or something, but, who cares? Here you can see, and this is really important, I forgot to mention this, I probably should have mentioned this from the get-go. Make sure you're not too far away from the enemy, because here you can see I was too far away from the enemy, so Rapid Slash didn't go through. So, I didn't go through the enemy with Rapid Slash, and obviously nothing happens if that can't work, so, yeah. Here you can see how I was holding the attack button for too long, and I ended up releasing it at just the right time, and I ended up doing a perfect judgment cut, so yeah, don't do that, I guess. So, here you can see how, there's this Rising Star fail with the Doppelganger, like, he ended up doing Rapid Slash instead, and this is the thing that I keep talking about. Like, this only happens if you if you do it the hard way. Like, if you summon the slow version of the Doppelganger, like I said, what's going to happen is you're going to input rapid slash, you input rapid slash, and then you switch his mode, and before he can react to rapid slash, you switch his mode and you input rising star. But the problem is, sometimes you switch his mode too late, and you input Rising Star too late, and he ends up not doing Rising Star. He ends up, doing Rapid Slash from before. He ends up reacting, because you have about half a second, less than half a second, to change his mode and to input Rising Star. If you use the hard way. If you use the easy way with the haste version of the Doppelganger, you just, summon him, do Rapid Slash, you wait. You know what I mean. So that's basically how it is. So, yeah, don't do that, I guess. Here you can see how Rising Star, the Doppelganger won't launch the enemy with Rising Star. The enemy starts shaking, and this also happened with the Sanctuary combo and some other combos. Like, sometimes after using Rapid Slash, the enemy starts shaking like this, and you can't use Rising Star to launch them into the air. I don't know what that's all about, but, yeah. I have a theory as to why this happens, and it's only a theory, but the way I see it, you need to be farther away from the enemy if you don't want this to happen. Like, you don't want to be too far away from the enemy, because like I said, this can happen. And if you're too close to the enemy, that's also a problem. So you need to be at the perfect distance, otherwise this issue will happen. Alright, so here you can see how, like, this is one thing you gotta keep in mind. After you're done using Rising Star, wait a little, like a fraction of a second before summoning the Doppelganger. Because as you can see here, as soon as I was done using Rising Star, like immediately, like almost immediately, I summoned the Doppelganger, and what happened was, the enemy was kind of launched into the air. They gained a little bit of altitude. So when I used Trick Up and did the Air Stinger with a Mirage Edge, what happened was this. I just hit the air somehow. And this happens when the enemy is, has not lost enough altitude. So what you gotta do, basically, is you kind of gotta, just wait a little. Just wait a little. Like, you're done using Rising Star, and now just wait. And now you summon the Doppelganger. Don't wait too long, but, wait a little. A very short amount of time. Because if you don't, this will happen. Here you can see this really common mistake. I call the Doppelganger back to my position too early. This is what I kept talking about. So once you use Helmbreaker, make sure you're on the ground. Like, make sure you hit the ground, and if need be, just wait. Make sure you're on the ground, and only then do you summon the Doppelganger back to your position. If you do it while you're using Helmbreaker, even though you may think you're on the ground, the Doppelganger will spawn. He'll go back to your position in midair, right? He won't be on the ground, and he won't be able to do Rising Star with you, right? So that's the issue. Like, make sure that after using Helmbreaker, you're on the ground, and only then summon your Doppelganger, okay? So call him back to your position, I mean. Here you can see how I switched to the Yamato, and I ended up doing Void Slash alongside the Doppelganger. So, when Round Trip is active, right? When this move is active, you can use Beowulf. You can spam the attack buttons. You can do any move with Beowulf. You can do any move with the Yamato, but you cannot use the Mirage Edge while Round Trip is active. Because if you press the attack button and you have the Mirage Edge equipped, what's going to happen is it'll go back to your position, right? Vergil will call it back. But here, Round Trip was active, but accidentally switched the Yamato, so when I pressed back to forward plus attack button, I ended up doing Void Slash with the Yamato, with the Doppelganger, because we both have the Yamato, and back to forward plus attack button with the Yamato is, Void Slash. What I should have done was, I shouldn't have switched the Yamato. I should have had the Mirage Edge equipped so that when I press back to forward plus attack button, the Round Trip went back to my position, so yeah. Here you can see how Vergil's Doppelganger did Void Slash too early. So the enemy was, it didn't get caught. It wasn't caught by the Void Slash. It was, I guess he was too high up in the air or something. But here you can see how the Doppelganger did the Void Slash too late. The Doppelganger essentially, the enemy was on the ground. You can see their feet touching the ground when Vergil's Doppelganger ended up doing Void Slash. So yeah, they were caught by the Void Slash. They were caught, but you know, it's still, they were still on the ground. This is also a very common issue that I don't think I've addressed so far. So 90% of the time, you won't get this right. Either the Void Slash will be too early, or it'll be too late. If it's too late, then, well, you know, the enemy's speed will be touching the ground, and the Void Slash, well, you know, at that point it's kind of useless. But if it's too early, then it looks even more ridiculous. So, I don't exactly know why this happens. I've tried just about every combination imaginable. The way I see it, it has to do with the enemy's altitude while they're on the round trip. I know that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but it's just a hypothesis. It seems as though if they're higher up in the air, they lose altitude, you know, I don't know, like if they're lower, they lose the altitude. I don't know, man. I genuinely don't know. I'm just spitballing here, so. Here you can see how I basically summoned the Doppelganger before using Trick Down, or rather, while using Trick Down. I didn't wait to land, I didn't wait to basically be on the ground, so I ended up summoning the Doppelganger in midair. So you're supposed to wait, just make sure you use Trick Down, and when you're on the ground, that's when you summon the Doppelganger. Don't make the same mistake I did here. Here you can see how Vergil's Doppelganger ended up doing Rapid Slash instead of Void Slash. I guess it's because I didn't press... Oh no, I actually know what happened. I did press back to forward plus attack button, but I guess the Doppelganger wasn't fully formed or something, so he only reacted to me pressing forward plus attack button, or W plus left mouse button, and he did Rapid Slash instead of Void Slash, because Void Slash is back to forward plus attack button, but Rapid Slash is forward plus attack button. So I guess the Doppelganger, he wasn't fully formed when I pressed, you know, back, so he only reacted to me pressing forward plus attack button, which is why he used Rapid Slash instead of Void Slash. Here you can see how the enemy fell to the ground while I was using Deep Stinger, and you know how I said that the first mistake, the one where the Doppelganger will do Rapid Slash with you instead of Rising Star, and how you gotta input it really, you gotta have perfect timing? Well, like I said, if you do it the easy way, that issue is pretty much gone. You know, if you summon the haste version of the Doppelganger and do it that way, it's a lot easier. But this issue is universally horrible. Not only does this combo have the issue that every combo that ends with an ultimate has, like sometimes you do Deep Stinger, like you input everything and Vergil teleports to the enemy. He uses Air Trick instead of using the ultimate. Well, with Deep Stinger, oh my god, bro. The thing with this combo is, and this is something that really got me, it really cemented this one thing for me. It solidified it. The fact, I now finally understand, I mean, I kind of knew already, but now I definitely understand why Deep Stinger is nowhere to be found in combo videos. Like I said, like, even Mirage Edge Combo B, which you could argue is useless, doesn't deal as much damage, is a hassle to perform, doesn't have a lot of stun stuff, you know, features, and you gotta mash, and, you know, it's a hassle to use. I have still seen this combo, this move, in combo mads, and combo videos, and combos, and I can still see it. It's still more prevalent than Deep Stinger. And you would say, you know, but Deep Stinger is one of the 3 super moves, one of the 3 ultimates. Why is it not being used? Well, now I see why. It's not only that obviously Judgment Cut End and Hell on Earth look better, because, you know, Deep Stinger is essentially just Sin Stinger in a way, I guess, but you know what I mean? It's like, the fact of the matter is, in every combo where you use Deep Stinger, you could simply use Judgment Cut End, and it'll probably look better, and it'll be easier to perform. But the main reason why I feel now that this this move is being avoided is the fact that, well, this happens. It is so easy with every other ultimate, with Judgment Cut End, with Hell on Earth. Once you start the ultimate, you know the combo is going to be over. You can't fail, right? Nothing, unless a miracle happens. Like, there's nothing that's gonna impede you from, like, it's over. When you've landed the super move as the finisher, the combo is over. You don't have to worry about anything, right? Yeah, unless you teleport, and you don't really get to use the ultimate, because as you already know, this keeps happening for a lot of combos for me, where I just can't do the ultimate, but I end up using air trick instead. But granted that, that doesn't happen and you end up using the ultimate, you usually don't have anything to worry about. But with Deep Stinger, that's where you gotta sway, you gotta fight for your life. A whole different challenge begins, because you gotta know how to steer this thing. Because if the enemy is in midair, and they're gonna be, because the whole point is for the enemy to be in midair before you use Deep Stinger, you have so many chances to fuck this up. Either the enemy falls to the ground while you're using Deep Stinger, because, you don't really hit them enough or something, or you end up missing. So it's like, pick your poison. You gotta know how to use this thing, because you're basically driving it. When you use Deep Stinger, you can basically release the lock-on and just press WASD, like back, forward, left, right, and you can drive this thing, you can steer it. And you gotta know exactly how long it is, and how long before, the final hit happens. And at this point, you really gotta make sure to gain some distance, but not too much distance, because then you might end up, the enemy might end up falling to the ground, like they did here. And it's like, oh man, it is such a fucking hassle. I'm gonna tell you. Like, at some points, I was like, maybe I should just use Judgment Cut End. At least with Judgment Cut End, this wouldn't happen. I wouldn't have to worry, but I'm like, nah, I gotta do it. So yeah.